Welcome to Friends, Life, and Ministry. Real talk from four pastors with over 200 years of ministry experience.
Hey, welcome to Friends, Life, and Ministry. We're four friends that have way too many years of ministry experience. We ache in our bones because of all of our ministry experience. And the assignment for us today is to talk about something that happened in our 20s, probably where we messed up in some way to some degree, and the lesson we learned from that and how that lesson is carried with us. Now, it might be an area we're still working on. And so we're going to go to our resident person of wisdom, John Van Dinther in Stockholm, Sweden, to lead us off. John, what's your thought on that topic?
Well, I think it's something that started and it's still sort of in process, you could say. It's about to have, faith, to live by faith, both in your personal life as well as in ministry. And I have to go back a little a step or so, or two or three maybe, but telling you that I, as a teenager, already was working early on in life. And when I was about 16, then when I was about 13, I started working to have pocket money. But when I was about 16, 17, I was actually working and trying to provide for myself and to help my mom by buying my own clothes and stuff like that, because my father had left. And so I had learned to be independent, working and doing things in the weekends and after school and stuff like that. And I continued doing that. And then I continued doing that. I became a nurse aide, and I was being paid that way. Then in the same time, I became a Christian. Just before that, I became a Christian. And something that I had to learn was, even in that season, my girlfriend and I, who's my wife now, we were already together when she was just 1 week 14. The week after she turned 15, actually. Yeah. And I was about 16 and a half at that time. So we were very, very young. But we both had our jobs. We worked. We got married a few years later when we were 18 and 20. And then we both had our jobs. At that time, I was his nurse aide, and she was a administrative assistant / secretary, kind of, in an export company in Holland. So we were people who had money, but in those days, God already started to tell us that we should give money away, and to the point, actually, that we could not pay our normal daily bills anymore. So we had two wages, and yet God challenged us to give away to needs that we saw around us, and to give out money. And this is like the strangest thing, because, the things like this, if you imagine watching us, this young couple, they're having these wages, they have their money. Who is going to give us extra money? Put that, for example, in an envelope and put it in our house, or leave it somewhere in our living room. Who's going to give us this extra money while knowing that we have two incomes? And the strange thing is, we became really dependent on that. We had certain places we had to look, and we knew we would find some money, which is really weird. And that has continued, actually, like that to most of our life. I cannot say it works it has been exactly the same way, but this was very, very hard, because from being very, very independent already as a teenager, and supplying for our own needs, we were thrown into a dependency that was really scary because, like I said, who would give extra money to two persons who had salary already? So this was like a real, yeah. But of course, since we didn't have any kids yet, it was easier. I must say it was a little bit harder later on when we got kids. Just the start of of conversation.
So that's continued all through your life then?
Yeah, I could say most of our life. I mean, I cannot say that we would give out more than we earned. That's not true anymore. But it's high. You know, it has always been in the 30-40% or whatever. If we look at it, or even more than that. So it's yeah, it has been a challenge because, you know, and this is the same also for in our personal life. It has remained like that, but also it taught us many lessons also for ministry. Yeah, because yeah, I mean we lived many years without wages, also like 15 years working full time for God without wages. I mean that's because of these things that we learned, but we are not always just thankful for those lessons, I must say, because they have been very hard. Yeah.
And do you feel like that the faith you grew by those by trusting God in those finances translated into faith that you could use in other aspects of ministry?
I mean, in all ministry, you know, it makes it very, how can I say, it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it so, uh, it makes it so usual. It's like this is how we ought to live as church too. And if there's too few, you know, faith challenges, whether that is in finances or whether that is in ministry development or whether it is in starting off new churches, um, you know, you cannot go with the security to be supplied for. I mean, I see church planters, especially here in Sweden, also that they want to plant churches, but they want to be paid from day one. And for me, that's like, oh, day one, wow.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know
that's
that.
kind of been my whole life. I wanted to be paid.
Yeah.
John, not only have I wanted to be paid, I've been want to be paid good.
Yes.
So your story is it's a real challenge. Even for me, it's a challenge. You inspire me by a story like that.
Yeah.
And I recognize my journey hasn't been anything like that. So then it makes me go, well, did I miss some guidance from God along the way? Or is he, and it could be. But I feel like I have over time grown in my generosity, but your your example, your and Inika's example is a truly amazing.
No, the thing is like this, if it can be done different, I think it should, but I think you miss out on certain aspects of faith, I think. I, because people take it for granted that there are resources available. And I think that's more the problem. It's more the attitude. Is not so much whether someone is paid or not. It's more the attitude, because the same problem can be an attitude of us who might not receive a salary and use that all the time to manipulate or whatever. You know, I mean, because I see that too, that people manipulate a lot. You know, you have to feel sorry for them. You don't need to feel sorry for us. We have chosen this, you know, and that was
Yeah.
the way that God provided for us, and He's providing it different ways for other people, and we all miss out on things.
Oh yeah,
And
and that's it. But it's an inspiring, very inspiring story, and I'm glad you have that attitude that it's not like we all have to have the same story. Bill, do you have one when you look back to your 20s? Was that about
Well,
12 years ago?
those,
You were in your 20s, late 20s?
yeah, yeah. Uh, I just turned 75, so a little longer than that. The
the things I remember were some kind of dumb things I did as when I was a youth pastor. We were doing like at Salem Covenant Church, we were doing a youth night service. And one of the things that was popular in those days was to sing the song Amazing Grace to other tunes, Gilligan's Island tune, or the House of the Rising Sun. And so our little worship high school band was going to do House of the Rising Sun and sing Amazing Grace to it. And then the singer from the group couldn't come to the service on a Sunday night. And so they said, well, what should we do? And I wasn't thinking straight. And I said, well, just play it anyway. So our offertory that night was House of the Rising Sun. And I was called into the pastor's office the next day about what the heck were you thinking? And he was actually, he never got over that. I left there 2 months later because he just, didn't like my miscalculation on that. And I understand now that he was getting a lot of complaints from people. So he was just passing along the pain. And then, like John, I would say rough years financially. I was going to seminary, and then I would work at Grace High School in Fridley, Minnesota from 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock, Monday to Friday. And so I felt like I was tired all the time, really hard to get my homework done because I wouldn't get home till after 11 at night. And they were rough years financially and otherwise. And yet, like John says, God takes care of it in amazing ways. And were things along the way that helped. But I'd say one thing about your 20s is they're financially challenging years. And the other thing is you'll do stupid things, but it's okay.
Well, and don't you think those stupid things you did framed your innovation in ministry throughout your ministry career? That it allowed you to go, okay, I'm going to keep trying new and
Yeah,
different things.
that's true. Yeah, I have lived that way. I get bored by things that are just predictable, and I want to do things that are a little bit outside of the line, but not too far. So,
Well, and for some people, if it's not in the line, it's absolutely wrong.
how about
Steve,
you, Paul?
well,
Did you ever do anything
I'm
dumb?
going to let Steve
Okay.
go first.
Well, John, I want to congratulate you on the example of generosity. That's
Yeah.
something that all of us should strive from, everybody who watches us. Not
Yeah.
not to the point where you aren't faithful in paying your bills, but to be able to walk by faith, that really is a wonderful example. And Bill, I have done much worse, but I couldn't sing, so I couldn't have done House of the Rising
Yeah.
Sun.
Yeah.
But I do remember Amazing Grace being done that way.
Yeah.
Is something very basic, and I don't know um, why I had such a hard time learning it. Uh, as a pastor, after a service, you have oftentimes lots of different people coming at you. At the same time, you've just given a sermon, and your mind and heart were on all of those things. And there was one time in particular that I had someone talking to me. It was one-on-one while I was surrounded by others who were also trying to get my attention. And I made a commitment to something and to that person without really remembering what it was that I was committing to, and tried to do it, and I ended up doing exactly the opposite of what I had committed to. I don't think that I understood how important and sacred a one-on-one conversation is with someone. It's not that often that a person even has a one-on-one conversation with you, and then asking for something and having my brain not have the ability to absorb it all. So I think that the lesson that I learned is to understand my lack of adequacy at those moments. And I would ask someone when they're talking to me to say, could we set up a time? This is too important. And my mind isn't clear. And I'm fearful that I'm going to not remember it. I need something to write it down with. And I think after that, I changed in understanding the value of those sacred moments. And especially when I had to go back and to apologize to this person for doing the exact opposite of what they had asked me to do. So a hard lesson, but a life-changing lesson about the value of people.
That's so good. Any follow-up questions for Steve?
Was that just in the church lobby that they were asking, like after the service?
Yeah, I don't think a person in a church lobby coming to talk to a pastor realizes that that's just not the best place to do it.
No, it's about the worst.
But oftentimes it's really frightening for a person to come and talk to a pastor, especially about something
Oh,
that's really important. So I think
yeah, good point.
for anybody listening, those are sacred and fearful conversations, and they need to be guarded by setting up a special time to meet with that person. And maybe keep a piece of paper and a pen in your pocket or
Yeah.
something so that you aren't agreeing to something that is the opposite of what a person is thinking.
I tell people to email me or text me. John, what's your thought?
Well, also on that, actually, because I've also realized that there's a momentum, and if people don't do something with it, they won't come back.
Right.
I mean, I could say for many people, if I would say to them, could you please write me an email? Half of them wouldn't do it. So at the same time, like I try to look around and see if there's anyone else that I think could be a possible fit for that person. If I feel I'm not up to it, or I start up and say, and let us now continue, you know. But it has to do with the kind of people that are part of your church too, you know. So that's I mean in the churches that we have a lot of prayer, but we have a very open, people are very open to talk and share almost anything, confess almost anything as they ask for prayer and support, because we have taught them that way, because this is the moment, this is the way to do it at this moment, because either they won't follow up, or the momentum and the atmosphere
Yeah.
Well,
is
Steve's real good at that personal
yeah,
counseling and praying for people, but I think where it is if someone says, um, they ask you to do a specific thing, or they have an idea, and with those I just always go, hey,
yeah,
I won't be able to remember that. You can either write a note down here and give it to me, or
Yeah.
email me, or phone me. But
yeah,
but I think Steve's attitude, and for a lot of you, if you're a pastor, to treat those moments as sacred, not
right,
as interruptions,
Yeah.
to treat them as sacred. I'll tell you the one I was going to talk about, and again, there's so many. One, and I learned this along the way, and I told people, I said, if you stick around long enough, I'll fail you, because I fail everybody. I fail myself. I fail my wife. I will fail you. And the other thing that I learned in my 20s was, we would have, I remember one time where of the 10 people that I would count as leaders at the first church that we started, 7 of them were moving out of the city to take different jobs. And I mean, this is in a group where we're maybe 75 to 100 people.
It was
And
a small town.
yeah, and it and I was kind of frustrated that they would take jobs in other places and not stay to the commitment. And the
Yeah.
lesson I learned in that is I am really committed to this church, and that's good. But a lot of people that attend, they're committed, but they're not as committed as I am, and that's not bad. They have other things that are part of their lives,
Yeah.
and they're making decisions about what would be best for their life. A lot of them had kids and family in different places, and so what it helped me to realize was I should always be thankful whenever anyone does anything in the church and that they're coming to the church. And I've gotta ratchet down my sense of wanting them to match my level of commitment. And I think in that way I was able to um, treat them in a better way. Real honestly, I would find at that time that I got antagonistic to people,
Oh,
and they could pick it up, and and after that I realized, no, always be thankful for people.
Yeah.
But that's
it's
just
hard
one
with
of many
leaders.
lessons.
It's hard when they're your key leaders to lose them too, though.
Oh, I know it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then like to John's first
Yeah.
part, God proved faithful. A year later
Yeah.
all of them had been replaced from people that were already there, frankly, that I
Okay.
just hadn't seen their abilities. But I think I think if I look back, I was over responsible for the church
Hmm.
and took it. I almost owned it when it's really Christ Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a valuable lesson I just keep on learning because
Would you say each of us is overly responsible generally? I would say that about myself. Would you say that, Steve or John? That you tend to be overly responsible at times?
I
Yeah.
take things pretty seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I think we're all in that camp.
Yeah.
And
I think so.
And in the jargon of social psychology, they talk about that as over functioning. There are people that underfunction, people that overfunction. But Steve Cuss says an interesting thing in his book on leadership. He said, God can't God can't really work in and through you unless you're human size. And when you overfunction, you're bigger than human size. And you move yourself away from God fully working in you. And what a challenge to hear that, because I always felt like my overfunctioning was a personal gift to God.
Yeah.
Well, we have used up all the time we have. Great. John's going to
Just
give.
one thing that I was thinking of as a conclusion also of this part. I think the fact the way we explained the way Steve explained the way he is treating people, what he has learned in that way, as he did the opposite of what the person expected, is like, it also shows, and this what we heard from you, Paul, indirectly, but it's like the particular gifts. So that it's because of the like of the 10 pastors that would meet a person normally, you know, not 9 might fail, but 1 might really make it because of the particular gift, the way that they're able to communicate with this person so that you get the response that you hope for. You can give the support that they need to. I was just thinking of that because they might not feel that trust or that confidence with me at all, but they would with you, Steve. So I was just thinking like special gifts. Yeah, anyway.
That's a good clarifier. Hey, we're coming up to the end of 2025. It's been a joy to be able to share these with you. Thanks for checking in on Friends, Life, and Ministry. Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening or watching. We would love to hear your questions.